Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carlo Perusa MMA. I am Carlo Perusa. Today I'm with Mr. Jason Faglier ahead of his Conflict 63 main event contest. He's taking on Dalton Goins. It's going down in Augusta, Georgia. What looks like to be the Conflict MMA card of the year. I'm an absolute stack card. Jason, you're making your return to competitive mixed martial arts. You're 7'3" professional MMA fighter. You're headlining in your home city. First fight in about 2 years. How does it feel to know you're about 10 days away from going out in the battle?
Man, it's an incredible feeling. I'm so excited. I'm happy. I train all the time, and I've just been, for some reason, I keep missing out on opportunities, or I get injuries and get setbacks, and it just keeps pushing the return date back. But I'm finally here. Less than 2 weeks out. Looks like there's nothing standing in the way, and I absolutely can't wait to just jump in there and do what I love to do.
Does it make it more exciting that you get a headliner card in Augusta?
Always, it's exciting to fight at my hometown because the crowd goes crazy, man. I've fought in enemy territory for so long, and when Conflict finally decided to come to Augusta, man, it's just a whole nother environment, and it's an incredible experience to be able to fight in front of my hometown, and everybody in the city show up and cheer and go nuts, and it's just to see the support that we have here is incredible.
In addition to yourself, you have a bunch of guys that are fighting on the card. I think there's 8 or 9 of your fighters who are fighting on this card.
Yeah,
Obviously,
there's 9 of us.
9, that's crazy. Some of your more well-known guys, obviously Quincy's a big part of this card. Amanda's on the card. Andrew's on the card. You got Terrence on the card. You got Joel on the card. I mean, this thing is absolutely stacked. What is it like, one, fighting on a card, but also coaching 8 other fighters?
Well, this will be a first, so I can't really tell you what it's like yet. I have fought on cards that I've also coached on, and it's not too hard. It's a little bit more difficult when the fights are close to mine. So whenever I have guys that are also making like the headline in the amateur part of the card, and then I'm only 2 fights after them or something, that makes it a little bit more difficult. But other than that, we just we treat it like we treat every training session at the gym. We go in there together, we attack it, we coach from the corner, and it's a rewarding experience to be able to do that with so many people.
Do you feel that fighting on a card with a bunch of your teammates has its pros and cons in the senses like, we don't know what those guys are going to do, if they're going to win or lose? Could that potentially affect you by the time you're going out and you're ready to headline?
I don't think so. I used to think it would back when I was fighting an amateur. I would see guys that would lose that I was close with or trained with, and it would get in my head like, man, I had one fight one time where there was like 4 people from my hometown fighting, and I think everybody before me lost, and I was like, dang, this ain't good. What if I fall right in line? And I went out there and put on a great performance, and I got a finish in the first round, and then I kind of realized like it doesn't matter what happens in any other fight. I have my fight to fight, and I go in there and attack it the same way that I would if all my guys won or if all my guys lost. I'm attacking my fight the same way. So it doesn't affect me mentally in my fight. But as far as in my heart, if my guys weren't winning, it would affect me just because I pour so much into them, and I try to give them every bit of knowledge and skill set that I have, and that everything that I've learned over the years, and I just try my best to prepare them the best that they can be prepared. So if they ever come up short for any reason, I feel a heavy burden because of it.
Do you feel you get more nervous for your teammates than your fight?
100%. 100%. It ain't even close. I don't really get in there. I sometimes I get a little nervous on the lead up, or when I'm standing in the back waiting to be called out. But once I start walking, all them nerves are gone, and I'm just ready to go. But man, my stomach will be in knots when my guys get in there. My brothers, they're all my brothers and sisters. Everybody that trains with me, that's just when they fight, I can't help them anymore. Like, I've done everything I can in the gym, and when they're in there, they're by themselves, and there's nothing I can do to help them. And it's a crazy feeling.
You've been competing in mixed martial arts for over a decade here. I'm sure involved in it for much longer than that. How did you get your start in this crazy world of combat sports?
Well, my dad, he trained growing up, and he started doing some MMA fighting back before it was really a thing that you could really do on a local level. It used to just be Pride FC and UFC, and I think this was before Bellator, honestly. Before Strike Force, before all sorts of shows, he tried to fight locally a little bit, and then I just watched him. Grew up watching it on TV, watching my dad compete, and then I was just like, that's what I want to do. I fell in love with the sport, and when I turned 18, I asked him to get me a fight, and we took my first fight on like a week notice, and I went out there and I got the win, and I was absolutely hooked from then. I knew there wasn't nothing else I wanted to do.
You started at an interesting time in combat sports. Many people watch MMA now. Many people love the UFC, all these different shows. But I think a lot of people fail to realize 15, 20 years ago, this was referred to as human cockfighting. It wasn't as sanctioned. It wasn't as mainstream. It wasn't as culturally accepted. The question I have to ask you is, in the early days, when you first started this, do you remember any promotions that were like the Wild Wild West, maybe mystery opponents, bad fighting conditions, bad medicals? Do you have anything crazy?
I've experienced a lot. I've experienced fights where we'll show up and get on the scale, and the opponent come in and 15, 20 pounds over, and we'll look at each other, and the commission will look away, and we'll put a bunch of keys and phones and stuff in our pockets, get back on the scale, and oh, we just gained 15 pounds. Look at that. So we've done that. I've literally watched my dad show up, weigh in at like 155, and then get in there and fight at 185 because the opponents that were there that were available were just 185ers. So, we've done some crazy stuff like that. And then I actually got a contract for a fight at 135 and didn't know it, but my opponent, when we went and weighed in, my opponent come in at 145. And so we were like, well, he's missed weight, obviously, and he pulled his contract out. They sent him a contract that said 145. So we got different contracts, and we just said whatever, we'll fight anyway. And we've had some crazy experiences, but nowadays it's a lot more controlled. It's regulated and professional, and you don't really run into anything like that anymore.
Obviously, Conflict MMA, Jared Williams, they do a great job. Very professional environment for regional show. Probably one of the more organized ones you're going to get through. Everything extremely legitimate. He puts on some great shows. And you guys have done very well at those shows. One thing that I've noticed very quickly of covering Conflict MMA is that the Faglier gym is definitely a powerhouse. I mean, when you look at it, you guys have some absolute killers. Quincy's awesome. Joel's making his highly anticipated pro debut. Top heavyweight prospect, and then you see, fighters like Amanda, you see fighters like Andrew, Terrence. I'm sure there's many more that I'm forgetting. Obviously, you have one that's about to go to the Contender Series, our buddy, Mr. Malcolm. What makes your gym such a special place? I have never been there, but what I can see is you guys are very family centric. It's very much so a family environment. Everyone will die for anyone at that facility. What's so special about it?
Well, you said it. That's it right there. We are a gym. At the end of the day, we run a business. We got to charge memberships and stuff, but our gym is not a transactional type of place. It's when you join the gym, you join our team, and when you join our team, you join our family. And it's just, we pour into each other. Everybody has each other's numbers. Everybody comes to different family functions and hangs out outside the gym. It's just it's a big family. And then I think what really sets us apart is no one comes there to just be selfish and be for themselves. It's no one's like, I'm going to come in there and get hard rounds for myself, and I'm going to learn this, and I'm going to work on this, and then I'm going to go. What everybody's mentality is I'm going to come in there and I'm going to work with the team, and I'm going to help the team get better. I'm going to help my teammate over here work on this. I'm going to help this guy improve on this because I see this needs improvement. I'm going to show him what I can do. And, when you pour into each other and your goal is to help your team grow and to help your teammates get better, you in turn get better, because when you make them better, they push to make you better. And that's what it is. We all pour into each other, and it's just camaraderie all around the gym. And, I think that's what sets us apart. And I think that's what makes our gym very special.
Obviously Joel making his pro debut. I believe it's a Muay Thai contest. He's a top-ranked heavyweight prospect. There's a lot of hype by him. Already signed with Iridium, and Jason House is representing him. Are you excited for it? Are you excited to see him make that transition to the pro game?
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely excited for him. I wanted to, we actually originally planned on him having more of an amateur career, having more fights and fighting, for belts and, just fighting more people. But when I tell you, since October time, I think I've had more people turn a fight down with him than I have had for every other fighter probably ever in the gym in 10 years turn down fights. I mean, it's just left and right. Nobody would fight him. We just couldn't get anybody to agree. And then every now and then we'd find somebody that would agree, and he'd go out there and put on a dominant performance, and then the next three or four that we were looking at, they're all of a sudden they're out. And just couldn't find him nobody to fight, and we were like, it's just that time. We got to make the pro jump and push your career further. So he's doing that. And then again, we still couldn't find somebody to take the pro debut for MMA. At least the matchmaker, Jared, said that he searched high and low and can't get anybody to do it. So we finally found somebody that's willing to do a Muay Thai fight. So he's going to make his pro debut with a Muay Thai fight with the small gloves, just so he can fight in his hometown, and then hopefully we'll be able to move from there.
Yeah, another one of your guys on the card, obviously Quincy Evans Jr., guy who's a top-ranked amateur fighter. I believe he's the number one ranked lightweight in Georgia, number one ranked lightweight in the Southeast. He's doing some great things. I believe this is going to be his 11th amateur contest. Is there a good chance this is his last one at amateur?
No, I won't say it's his last, because I'll tell you, we've already got another fight booked for him. But you're right. Joel is the number one heavyweight amateur in the continent of North America, and Quincy is the number one lightweight in the continent of North America. And he is booked to fight the number two guy in October. So that'll be a banger fight. And who knows, if that goes well, maybe we'll see him make that jump afterwards. But it's all in God's timing. We'll prepare him the best we can. We'll fix whatever holes we see, and improve upon the things that he's great at. And we'll make that decision as it comes. But yeah, he's such a hard worker. Him, Malcolm, Joel, like everybody in the gym, they pour in each other so much, and they work so hard that they're only going to get better, and they're going to all turn professional one day, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for sure. And speaking of the rankings, man, we've had top rankings for like a decade now out of the gym. When I was an amateur, I think for a while I was ranked the number one pound for pound amateur in the Southeast at one point, and then I had a bunch of titles in my weight class, and I went pro. And then my brother was ranked, my older brother Alex, he was ranked in the top 5 in the lightweight division. And then Malcolm started fighting. He took all the belts that were around in our weight class, and then now he became the number one amateur fighter. And then after him, Quincy's done it, Joel's done it. It's just, I started fighting in 2011, so since then, we've just been on a tear, and we've just been producing killers out of there.
So the first event that I got to cover as a mixed martial art journalist was a little show called Icon Fighting Championship.
I remember meeting you down there.
And I was introduced to a kid a lot of power, little 135 with some serious pop. Turned to be one of my best friends now. That's Mr. Malcolm Wellmaker, and instantly you could see superstar in him. I mean, they're about to fight on the Contender Series. He's getting his opportunity finally. And, it's crazy to think that he's only been a pro for a couple years now. I mean, he stays active. He gets into wars. And one thing that I don't think I've ever told you this, but I've told him, I commend you guys. You guys had him do 11 fights as an amateur before he made that decision to make him go pro. I'm sure, knowing who he is, he probably wanted to go pro quicker than that. But how important, I mean, I'm sure, did you recognize the skill? Did you recognize the capability right away? And how important was it to wait until you felt that he was very well-rounded to turn pro?
I did recognize that ability in him early. And there's been a lot of people that come through the gym where I recognize that they have that capability of making it, but you don't find a lot of people that are really willing to be disciplined enough to do exactly what it takes. And Malcolm did. And I told him a long time ago that he could fight in the UFC if he wanted to. And he locked in and trained hard, and he hasn't looked back. He's done phenomenal. And he did want to turn pro probably a little earlier than we did, but there's a method to a career, and there's ways to train and things that you got to learn. And one of the things that I don't like to do is I don't like to pick and choose fights. So I don't want to ever put one of my fighters in a position where they turn pro, and then we get an offer, and I'm like, I don't know about this guy. Who else you got? And then I get 3 or 4 guys. I'm like, well, maybe not this guy. No, I want my guys to be in a position where when they turn pro and we get an offer, we can take it. There's always certain circumstances to look at and certain times, but for the majority of fighters in their weight class, I want to be confident that they can fight and compete with most any of them before we make that professional jump. And Malcolm got there, and so as you can see, he's stormed through the division. We worked our way up. Fight after fight gets harder and harder, and he's 7-0. Dominant fights, finishes. Joel's undefeated, working his way up competition, turning pro. Quincy's on an 8-fight win streak. Like everybody, they do. They're not selfish. They do what they're told. They get in there. They push each other. They push their teammates, and they just continue to get better. And they listen, and they have complete faith and trust in the coaches. And our coaching staff just directs them the best we can. And when they get pro, we're willing to take any fight.
On that icon card, he took on Langston Sykes, and he finished him dominantly. Huge knockout. And I think one of my favorite stories, I'm wondering if you were there for this. Were you there when Jorge Masvidal whipped out 10 $100 bills and gave it to him right after?
Yeah, I was. I was standing right there. As a matter of fact, he brought it to me. The funny thing is Malcolm, if they give him cash, he gives it to me, because if he takes it, he's gonna blow it. He's gonna go out and have a good time after the fight. So if they give him cash, he just brings it straight to me. He said, "Here, hold on to this for me." But I remembered that because after he gave that to me, Jorge called me over to the table where he was, and I went over there and talked to him and Dean Toole, and both of them told me that he's phenomenal. And I forget what the next show date was, but they asked me, he said, "What's he doing so-and-so date?" That's the next show, and we want him on it for sure right now. Can we lock him in? And I say, yeah, well, let's talk about it. We'll set something up. But yeah, it was a crazy experience. They were very impressed with him. It was really cool to see the love shown.
Just a couple of weeks ago, you went out with him to Vegas. You guys got there a little early, did all the filming and everything for the Contender Series. You've been with that guy since the jump. I'm sure he's going through a lot of emotions now. He has a huge moment, but you're talking a little earlier about you're being a little more nervous for your guys. When he fights, you're going to be shaken inside.
Of course. I'm nervous for every fight that they have. Malcolm, Andrew, Quincy, Amanda, Joel, like it doesn't matter. Every single person, when they get in there to fight, I get nervous because anything can happen. You see it all the time. The better fighter doesn't always win. Anybody can land a punch. injuries happen, slips happen. Like, you never know what's going to happen. So it's just it's always a nerve-wracking experience, but I wouldn't trade it for anything because I love every single one of the guys and girls that come out of the gym, and I'll be there for them every fight that they want to get in.
One thing I just love talking about fighters that are on the regional scene is the sacrifices that it takes to be a fighter. And it's not just Malcolm, it's every single one in your gym, including yourself, probably have to make these sacrifices. When you're fighting at the regional level, you're not making millions of dollars quite yet, as you can see what these guys make when they fight.
Unfortunately, not.
Malcolm's a pipe fitter. He's a blue collar job. He's working. I'm sure your other guys have to do that type of jobs like that too. Some have kids, some have families. You train at night, wake up early, all these sacrifices just to be able to chase this crazy dream. How do you get through it, and how do you try to help guide your guys through it as well?
Well, you got to have a love for it, and you got to have a passion for it, and I do. So it's not very hard for me to want to be there. It is very difficult, to juggle, your at home life. I'm married. I have a son. I have a dog. I work a day job still because we don't make enough off fighting to not work, and then the gym is successful, but it's still not at the point where I don't have to work. So we all have day jobs. We all work long, hard hours. We get off. We're all tired, and I'm sure everybody wants to relax on the couch, but everyone makes that decision to get up and go to the gym and train. And that's just discipline. That just takes discipline. And you just if you have it, you can go far. If you can't be disciplined, you'll have a tough time making it. But if you can stay disciplined, you can do anything. And that's what it is. And like I mentioned earlier about how nobody's in there for themselves; they're there for the team. That really translates when these people don't have fights. When Malcolm doesn't have a fight scheduled, or when Quincy doesn't have Quincy, for instance, he hasn't gotten a fight since December, I think it was, and he has literally not missed a day of training. And the reason is because we've had other fighters that have had fights, and he's there to be a training partner for them, to be a sparring partner for them, to be a coach for them, and to help them grow. And that's what everybody does. And they stay in the gym and they train nonstop. And it's hard. It's really hard to juggle that with everyday life. But when you can be disciplined enough to make yourself do it, you reap the rewards.
So this is going to be your first contest in 2 years. What were some of the reasons for the layoff?
Well, so I was supposed to fight in Augusta. The card was in 2022, and it was June, I believe. I was supposed to fight that night and headline the Augusta show, and my opponent missed weight. He come in, and I think he was 9 pounds over, and the commission said that he had to be within 7 pounds of me, or they wouldn't let us fight. And they wouldn't let me reweigh. I probably begged them for an hour to let me just get back on the scale, be heavy, and just wouldn't have it. So he didn't make the weight, didn't get within the allowance. So they scrapped our fight. I didn't get to fight. I took another fight the very next month in July of 2022 for MMA, and I won that fight. And then I was supposed to fight later in the year, and it fell through. The whole show got canceled. It was down in Florida. It was in December. Literally 2 days or a day before the weigh-ins, I think. I was already cutting weight and got the call that the whole show was canceled. So that fell out. And then the next Augusta show was scheduled in July or June or July 1 of 2023. And I was preparing to headline that, and I tore my knee and had to have surgery. So that put me out for the pretty much all of 2023. And then I was cleared to train again in like November. I got offered a fight in April, and I took it. We signed the contract. And then in March, I think it was, or actually in February, I popped a rib out of place, dislocated a rib. very hard to train through, but I did it anyway, and I was going to fight regardless. And then the following month in March, when I was like 3 weeks out, 3 or 4 weeks out from the fight, I broke my foot and couldn't do anything with it. And they told me my recovery time was at least 4 weeks, and so that put me out of that fight. And it just one thing after another, injury after injury, it just kept prolonging it. But now finally got to get healthy again and made it back to an Augusta show. So it's been 2 years, but I'm hoping to come out there and show out.
You're taking on a guy with a similar opponent, a similar record than you, Dalton Goins, 6-2 guy, ranked prospect. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent?
I mean, I respect him. I think he's a good opponent. I think he's got really good skill set. I'm very thankful that he took the fight and that he's coming down here to challenge me in my hometown. But I have absolute confidence that I'll beat him. And there's nobody in my weight division that I don't think that I could go out there and beat. So I'm confident in my training partners. I'm confident in my coaches and their game plans. And I'm very thankful that he's coming. But God willing, he'll be going back with a loss on the record. Now I'm gonna shoot up to 8-3.
You definitely have a little bit of the edge of the experience in this fight. You've been doing it longer than him. Obviously, for you, it's been ingrained in you probably since you were born with your father and everything. But how much do you think the experience is going to factor into this contest?
Experience always factors in. And that's a testament to anybody that has fought for some time. They'll tell you, the more you fight, the more comfortable you get, the better you can listen to your coaches, the better you can control, your breathing, your cardio, your positioning, your nerves, everything. So experience definitely makes a difference. I don't know that it'll make a huge difference in this fight. He has had almost as many fights as I've had as a pro. He did compete as an amateur. He's had a decent amount of experience. I think our experience level is pretty similar. So I don't think there'll be a huge gap there. But to answer the question, I do think experience does make a difference.
So you're 31. You're in the prime of your career right now. Is the aspirations of the big shows, the UFCs, PFLs, Bellators, is that still something that's kicking in the back of your mind?
Yeah, it's still there. There was a time period where that's all I wanted, and then I had my baby boy, and not that I didn't want it, but my whole focus for everything in my life shifted to him, and it's like I can't even explain to you the blessing that it is to have a son, and it's just my whole world changed, and all of my goals changed, and everything that I did changed, all for him. And I got things situated the way that I wanted to start my family, and now I'm at that point where I can start getting back on the path of chasing that career dream that I've had, and hopefully I can make it happen. I also took a little bit of a back step to try to help build the team, because back when I was beginning fighting, even as a pro, I didn't have a big team like we have now. I didn't have a lot of training partners. I had like one person that sparred with me that could push me. I had to try to go find partners elsewhere. I didn't have that team. So I kind of took a little bit of a back step from chasing that dream to start trying to grow the gym and grow a team and cultivate careers. Like, for example, like Malcolm, I really took a step back and I looked at what I did and the things that I learned from trying to make my fighting career successful. And I translated everything that I had learned to him, and some things I've been able to help him do better than that I did. And which is why I think that he's already so young into his career getting that opportunity. And, I've kind of learned how to do it for everybody. And now that I feel like I've set my team up for success, now I can kind of focus on myself and chasing it again. And I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Did Malcolm's journey at all, recent journey of, the Contender Series, going to Vegas, being so close, that kind of light some fire for you and give you maybe some little more motivation to get up there with him?
Yeah, it was really cool to see. And, I want to do it just as much as he does. But, I honestly didn't even think about it much while he was there because I was just so excited for him. I was videoing him and taking pictures for him and, trying to capture the whole experience for him and learn the most as I can. And, of course that I want it too. I want to get there too. But, that's not, I can't say that was at the forefront of my mind because I was so focused on him and trying to get him to enjoy his trip. And, my mind just wasn't on me. It was on him at that time. But I absolutely do want to get to the same point for sure.
All right, Jason, last question for you, my man. In a perfect world, what goes down next Saturday when you take on Dalton Goins in Augusta, Georgia?
In a perfect world, I finished him in first.
Awesome, man. Well, Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Thank you for chopping up with me. And, I wish you nothing but the best. And I wish nothing but your guys' best of luck also.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. And I enjoyed talking with you. Hope you have a good night.
Awesome, man. That's Jason Faglier. I'm Carlo Prusa. Stick around.